Hello everyone. If you are watching one of my videos for the very first time, my name is Adrienne and I empower moms to provide a stable, healthy environment for their children by supporting them through homeschooling and ways to live toxin-free. I'm going to share one of the many neat things about homeschooling, and that's the flexibility and the ability to teach your kids what you want them to learn in a very comfortable environment, their home, where they're most comfortable and where they feel the safest, so they can really take it in, because you can't learn when you're scared, and sometimes schools and other places can be scary for kids. So when they're safe in their home, that's the best place to teach them. And this video, I'm just going to list some life skills that I think are really important for kids to learn, and the best place to learn them is at home from their parents, and it's just real life learning. They're going to understand so much more when they're adults. So let's jump into the ideas that I found online. The first one is baking and cooking and preparing meals in the kitchen. I love to bake with my daughters. I know it can get messy and I know it takes a lot of time, so you just have to budget in some extra time for explaining things and extra time definitely for the cleanup if your children are anything like mine with flour. So it's a fun learning process, and then at the end you get to eat what you made. Like, how cool is that? You can also even take it as far as helping them to learn to meal plan, so that you can sit down with them and say, okay, these are the foods that we have. I'm a big believer in using up leftovers, so we try and incorporate leftovers as much as we can and take that food and turn it into something new and creative. So it's a great way to teach them a life skill, something I feel like is very lacking in a lot of people when they grow up. They don't really know where to go as far as, like, with food. You've got to prepare what you're going to bake or make, and then do the grocery list, get the groceries. There's lots of convenient ways to do that now with the grocery delivery and even meal kits that are delivered to your door. But I'm pretty old school as far as shopping and picking out my own things. I do have 3 children, so I kind of juggle that back and forth, but it is neat to involve them whatever you can in the kitchen, and that's really a life skill that's going to stick with them for the rest of their life, and it's going to benefit them. And then when you're baking and you have the recipes, you're using math and you're reading and you're reasoning, and you're even, if you're anything like me, you're probably adding in your own little ingredients that you want to kind of spice up that recipe that you found. Or you might not use a recipe at all, and you're teaching them how to create delicious dishes just from your head. Either one of those would be a great skill that you're passing on to them. Another thing that I think is really important is teaching them about plants and maybe even gardening, and helping them to understand that animals and plants have this relationship. You could really get into trading off gases, right? Our waste gas is what the plant takes and then gives us oxygen. It's a great little cycle. They can even put moisture in the air if you have plants in your house. If you're doing a garden, then there's all kinds of other things that they could learn through that. There's the discipline of weeding and the patience of planting those seeds and watching the plants grow, and then harvesting the crop and being able to eat what you've prepared. Like, how cool is that? That's a great skill to pass on to your kids. Another one that's not as exciting maybe would be goal setting, time management, scheduling, those kind of things that are going to carry over into like their business area of their life. Now, obviously, if you have a 4-year-old, you're probably not going to do a lot of goal setting with them. You may say things out loud like, we're going to learn their ABCs, or let's practice writing our name. But as your kids get older, you can help to really teach them how to set goals and make sure that they are setting reasonable goals, and that they're not just setting goals and leaving them. I used to do that as an adult until I finally took a training and it made sense that you take your big goal and you break it down into little bite-sized pieces of things that you can accomplish, and then you break that up throughout the month or the weeks or however you want to do it, so that it's something that you can accomplish and you have like physical steps that you can take to accomplish your goal. If your child is trying to learn a new skill or a new anything, they're gonna have to figure out some things, and a lot of our kids might be doing things as far as in careers that are things that don't even exist yet. So we can't really prepare them for something that we don't know what it is. So the best way to prepare them is to teach them how to set goals, how to be productive and take control of their calendar, let their calendar work for them and not the other way around. And just really making them aware that scrolling social media for 3 hours may be super fun, but it's not going to be productive and it's not going to really advance them in God's kingdom or in their career or do anything for their relationships. It's kind of a mindless thing that we tend to do, right? Another fun skill that I think kids should know how to do is just basic sewing. I have a sewing machine, so I always like to grab my daughter when she's up and have her help me. She loves to pull the pins out of the sewing machine and just do the basics of sewing, right? We're not sewing a whole bunch of things. We've made curtains and little things for her dolls, and it's just fun to get them involved in that process so that they know that it's not some overwhelming task, that that's something that they can do when they get older, and they might even pursue a career in sewing. You never know, right? Another skill that I thought would be good to know, because I didn't learn it in school and I am super challenged, directionally challenged, would be reading a map. I know we have the GPS on our phones now, and there's so many different apps and things that you can use for directions, but if all of that were to suddenly disappear or your phone dies, you need to be able to get from point A to point B. So reading a map and then understanding where things are located on that map is a great skill to teach our kids. Another one that might come natural if you have a pet is taking care of animals, especially if you live on a farm. That's teaching them responsibility. They're learning that those animals need to be fed and bathed and cared for, and it's a great skill for them to learn responsibility. These are kind of in a random order. I didn't really sort them, so sorry about that, guys. Writing a letter is another thing that's kind of like a lost art with our technology. So many people are quick to send an email or a text message, and it's so special to get a letter in the mail and you're getting that person's handwritten note. So writing a letter to a friend and actually mailing it is something that my daughter absolutely loves to do. We do kind of like a pen pal back and forth with her friends from back home, and it's neat to see her writing kind of develop over time, her sentence structure and how she writes, and she writes a lot like a lot of us, kind of how she talks. So it's fun to read the letters and to just see the joy that it brings her and her friend when they get letters from each other. So it's kind of a lost art, but I think writing a letter is a really important skill that you have as an adult, as a child, anybody. Another thing that's kind of like a lost art is making a phone call. Again, with the technology, a blessing and a curse, right? We've got the text messages and the emails and all of these things. Some people don't seem to know how to have a conversation, and you pick up the phone to call someone and like the conversation piece is missing. So how to make a phone call, how to answer a phone, those are skills that are important to have. Maybe not as easy to teach, especially with cell phones. If your child's answering your cell phone, I don't know. If you had a landline and they picked up the phone, but that's showing my age there. Another skill in the home is how to iron. It's important that your children know how to press clothes. If they buy a shirt or a dress or something and it's wrinkly, that they want to be presentable, especially if they're going to like a job interview, they need to know how to iron and make things look pretty and presentable. And with that, laundry is another area, a life skill I think that's important that a lot of parents might neglect. Maybe you forget about it. Maybe you're a little bit of a control freak like me and you want it done a certain way, but it's really good to have them. Again, it's teaching them responsibility and it's showing them how to get their clothes clean, which is something that they're going to have to do for the rest of their life, unless their spouse does it or a roommate or something like that. So a great life skill. Another one is going to the library, how you search for books, how you find books in certain areas. The libraries have the books grouped a certain way. Maybe you could even explore like what the difference was between fiction and nonfiction. There's so many things that you can do in the library. I know our libraries here have lots of great like summer programs and lots of guest speakers like improv. There's even an opera one, which was cool. So getting your kids to use those resources that they have and not just relying on the internet, but actually finding books and reading things, it's always fun. And the last one that I found that I thought would be a good skill to have is balancing a checkbook, because I never learned how to do that. So as an adult, I had to teach myself, and I would really like to set my children up for success by preparing them with these life skills for their future. And when you're homeschooling, it's super easy to incorporate that into your day, into your lesson, however you want to go about that. It's not impossible to do if you are not homeschooling, but it's super convenient to fit that in a homeschool lesson or a homeschool day. So I hope that gave you value. Don't forget to subscribe and comment if you found value in that, and I will see you in the next video.